Hello and welcome to Dog Day Chess. In this episode we're going to take another look at windmills. Let's face it, everyone loves a good windmill in chess. In fact, one of the first episodes I posted on this channel featured a windmill that netted me a queen, a bishop, and 2 pawns. I've put a link to it at the end of this video. Since that time I've accumulated a few more examples of them from my games. These examples cover a variety of different positions, so I thought it would be good to do another video on this topic. By way of definition, a windmill is a tactic that involves a series of repetitive checks that keep the enemy king moving back and forth as you capture pieces. That's a pretty abstract definition, so I'll try to give you a better understanding of them by showing you a few in action. In this game, I'm playing black, and we're in an endgame with white to move. White moves his rook behind the blockaded center to attack. I move my pawn to block the check, and the rook moves to fork my c-pawns. But now I can take the initiative by playing rook to g2 check. The king must move to h3, and I continue by checking on g3. This forces the king to h2, where it'll be caught in the windmill. I start by capturing the f-pawn with a discovered check, and the king moves to g2. And in windmill fashion, I go back to g3 in hopes of sending the king back to h2. At this point, white is in a no-win situation. If he tries to avoid the windmill by moving to f2, then he won't be able to stop the h-pawn from promoting. And if he stays in the windmill by moving to h2, he's going to lose all of his pawns on the third rank. I suppose he could try to hold out by moving to h1, but then my g and h pawns would just march in with the support of my bishop and rook. In any case, the king moved to h2, and the windmill continued with rook captures d3, discovered check, king to g2, rook coming back for another check, and then capturing the b-pawn with another discovered check. At this point white resigned. He had lost too much material. In this game I'm playing white, and I'm currently attacking strongly on the queen side of the board. I move my bishop to a5 to force the black king to c8. From here, my rook wouldn't be able to capture the a7 pawn immediately, but if I do it as a mini windmill, I'll be able to capture the pawn and the a8 rook. I start by checking on c7, and then capturing the pawn with a discovered check that gives me the time to also capture the rook in the corner. Actually, after the game, my analysis found that I had a forced mate a couple of moves ago, but the windmill sealed black's fate anyway. In this game, I'm playing white again. However, this time the action is on the king side of the board. It's my move, so I played knight to g5 check to force the king off of f7 so that I could follow up by pushing my f-pawn to fork the rook and the knight. However, before doing that, I noticed that I could also pick up the h-pawn without loss of tempo with another mini windmill of repeated checks. So I simply played knight h7 check, forcing the king back to f7, and then knight back to g5 check, forcing the king back to f8. And then I played the fork. This last example is one of my more remarkable ones because I actually sacrificed my queen in order to put my opponent in a windmill. From this position, it was my move as white, and I played queen to g5, combining with my rook to threaten mate on g7. Black played knight e8, defending the g7 pawn, and also creating a discovered attack on my queen with the bishop. But here, I went ahead and captured g7 anyway. I sacrificed my queen because I had worked out that the resulting windmill would allow me to win back the black queen and more. So after black captured my queen, I captured with the rook, starting the windmill. The king was forced into the corner, and I captured the pawn with a discovered check. The king came back, and I came back with another check so that I could win the bishop with another discovered check. After the king moved, I finished by picking up the queen. So in the end, this windmill, brought about by a queen sacrifice, netted me a bishop, a knight, and 2 pawns. At this point, black resigned, making this one of the most spectacular finishes that I've ever played. As always, I hope you learned something from this episode, and thanks for watching.